Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond. This is a show where we try and figure out how to get better at doing the hard stuff that makes life exciting. Got a short strategy episode for you today. Just a heads up as well is that the interview-based episodes are going to keep going through the holiday season, but this is going to be the last strategy episode until the new year. I'm giving myself a little bit of space just to taper off and have a wee bit of a break. But don't worry, some great interviews coming up for you that I've just recently recorded. So the strategy that I want to talk to you about today is step back, step up, step in. And I came across this strategy in Kerry Evans' book, Dr. Kerry Evans' book, Perform Under Pressure. So I'm giving you some of my take on it. So what is this strategy? When we're wrapped up in a situation and find ourselves not responding the way that we want to, it can be really helpful to take a step back, take a step up, and then step in. So step back and take a broad view of the situation that you find yourself in to appreciate the context of it. You can actually take a physical step back to trigger yourself to stop reacting to what's going on and take an overview of the situation. Or certain situations you might just be able to take a mental step back. And usually if we're not responding optimally to a situation, what we need to do is we need to step up to operate at a higher level than we're currently performing at. A quick step back to assess the situation gives us a view of where we need to step up to. And stepping in then involves taking action at this higher level. We step back into the situation and take control of it, operating in the way that's most likely to lead to a successful outcome. And again, this step in can be mental or it can be physical as well. And sometimes it's more powerful to actually take a step forward to begin to take the action that we need to do in a physical sense, because that physicality really triggers us to take action. So where do you apply it? When you become aware that you're not operating at the level that you want to be operating at, perhaps you're a little bit reactive, perhaps the situation's starting to overwhelm you and you know that your performance is suffering because of it, that's when you want to apply the strategy. So having that awareness of, hey, my focus is narrowed, I'm not doing that well, then take a step back, take a step up, and then take a step in. And this process should take somewhere probably between 5 and 20 seconds to do. It's a quick process. It might take a little bit longer when you first begin to do it, but that step back, quick assess, step up, operating at a higher level, step back in, taking action. The more you train it, the faster it's going to be and the quicker turnaround that you will get it to operating within sort of a 5 to 20 second time frame. So this strategy in action, if you haven't read Kerry Evans' book, Perform Under Pressure, it's an interesting one and it does give you some good strategies for overcoming discomfort. He utilizes a couple of examples in there. One's a teacher in the classroom, another is a paramedic at an emergency scene. But for myself, I've used this strategy in the last couple of weeks actually. My son Connor goes down for a nap during the day reasonably well, but sometimes in the evening he doesn't go down nearly as quickly, and you end up with him for a little while and trying to get him to sleep. And sometimes if I've loaded up my to-do list and I've put pressure on myself from that perspective, that long drawn out going to sleep, I can find myself a little bit challenged by it, a little bit overwhelmed by it, and not operating at the level that I want to be, being a little bit more reactive in that situation rather than proactively and not quite showing up as the dad that I want to be. I've utilized this strategy in those situations where actually I do take a physical step back from the situation. Sometimes it's a step outside of the room, a couple of quick deep breaths, so I can just assess what's going on with myself, with the situation that I put myself in, and then I can look at it and I can understand, actually, here's the contextual stuff with it, that he's not doing it to piss you off. Your son needs you to be there for him at the moment, and he needs you to be a safe space, and you've put this pressure on yourself by wanting to do all these different things in the evening after he's gone to bed. That creates the context for me, and then actually I know how I want to operate as a dad, so I can step up to that level, and then once I've done that, I can step back in to the room, to the situation, and work on being the dad that I want to be. So that's one way that I've used it to help with some discomfort that I've been facing recently. Why does this strategy work? So when we get caught up in an uncomfortable situation, when the pressure goes on, when we start to get overwhelmed, often our perception of that situation really narrows to just what's in front of us, and then we just start reacting to that. So stepping back allows us to take a broader view of the situation. It allows us to understand the context and allows us to take different perspectives of what's going on in that situation. And when we can do that, we're not as reactive to that situation. So we're not just relying off habit, and often bad habit. So once we've stepped back, then we step up. And most of us know, or most of us have had times in our life where we've been operating at a high level, or we know how we want to perform. Stepping up puts us in that mindset, puts us in that position of, okay, this is how I want to operate, and then allows us to think from that perspective and problem solve from that perspective, and show up from that perspective as well, rather than that lower perspective that we have when we're more reactive. And finally, stepping in. It's all well and good to step back and step up, but if you don't step back in to control the situation, then sometimes it can just get away from you, or sometimes it can again overwhelm you and bring you back down to that level you were operating from before. So taking action is vitally important in this situation to get on top of it and to perform under pressure. So that's the final strategy that I want to leave you with for 2019. I'll definitely be back with more of these strategies in 2020. What I'm also going to be doing is I'm also going to be running a few webinars early in January, all about identifying a challenge to take on in 2020, whether that's over a couple of months, whether that's over 6 months, whether that's over a year, or whether that's a long-term challenge that you want to do and you want to get the ball rolling on it. So some webinars about identifying that challenge and starting to create a plan of attack for it. So this is probably for people who have the inkling of an idea that they're working on at the moment that they want to get a little bit clearer on. It's for people that actually just want to train to get better at stepping outside of their comfort zone, or it's for people that maybe feel a little bit stuck and know they want to do something different, but they aren't quite sure what it is. So if you flick me an email, chris@chrisdesmond.nz, I haven't set up the times for them yet, but I'll make sure that I send you out some links when they are ready to roll. So yeah, email me, chris@chrisdesmond.nz, and just put in the subject line 2020 and I'll know what you're after. I'll see you guys again next Tuesday for another great episode, but thank you so much for getting uncomfortable with me today.